Hello and welcome to the John Senne Ideas Podcast. Thank you for joining the Interesting People series. Today, I'm with my good friend Joe Schalley, a 21-year-old full-time student, full-time sales extraordinaire, an all-around impressive example of what Gen Z brings to the table in the 2020s and beyond. Welcome to a new age of balanced, responsible young adult. Welcome to a new definition of hustle and success. Enter Smokin' Joe Schalley.
You're most likely going to get everything done before it seems like everybody else.
Yeah.
And there's two options at that point is you can stop working and get complacent with it, or you can look for another thing to do to help, as long as the right rewards are in place, it seems like.
That's definitely something good to get away from your father, that's for sure. So do you think yourself, though, do you yourself dedicate yourself to one avenue at a time, or do you prefer to kind of like challenge what you already are doing, or expand your boundaries, expand like your skill set?
Yeah.
Which end of that spectrum are you on?
I feel now, and obviously I'm not super old and wise, but I feel like I do find myself cutting out a lot of the excess fat now and starting to focus on the things that I know are actually going to have a direct impact. Like even we were talking earlier about like art and being a musician and trying to learn. That's one thing I don't think I will excel at, and I've tried.
Yeah.
I've tried. I probably didn't try my hardest, but I think I've come to terms with the fact that I'm probably not going to be able to rock a stellar riff on a guitar or play a song at a campfire.
Well, at the very least, it's the understanding as to whether or not you're going to put in the effort required and the time required to get good enough to do that.
Yeah.
I found myself getting older. Now, you're way ahead of me if you're at 20. You're 21
With
still,
21,
right?
yep.
At 21, having these things figured out, I'm going on 27, but certainly I have a guitar in my closet, and I think about all the time whether or not I should sell it, because as much as I want to learn a tune or two, am I going to spend 20, 30, 40 hours to learn the proper chords to be able to play at a campfire?
No, and I can't see myself doing that. I do the exact same thing. I've got mine set up in a stand and a chair right next to it. Excuse me. And I just can't find myself sitting down to really get good at it again.
No, I would suggest you can maybe keep it, for when you're 50, because if you're cutting off the fat now, chances are you're going to focus on some things, and whether or not those things are valuable themselves, like inherently, or maybe even in the economy by themselves. It seems to be a rule of thumb that if you truly love something and you have the determination to work hard at it, you'll probably be successful enough to enjoy your life later on in life.
Yeah.
So, for that reason, you might spend the next 20, 30 years, I know you like business operations and things like that, and strategy, figuring that out. But then when you're 50, you might actually be able to retire a little early and pick up that guitar and spend that 40 hours.
And actually be able to dedicate some time to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of counting on myself.
At least have it around, have it as an option.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I don't think I've actually found that. I think in a work-life balance, you should have your work dedications, like obviously business operations and stuff like that is something that I do enjoy, and being personable with people. I just don't. This may sound kind of derogatory to all of the gamers out there, right? Like I play games, I enjoy playing games, but it's not to play the game, it's to talk with my friends, right? And as soon as everybody gets off, I'm off too. I don't want to play. I don't want to be gaming to be my thing every day. When I come home, I'm grinding on a game.
That's fair,
right? And it's not that those skills aren't valuable. They're obviously inherently valuable. People make money at it all the time, and people really enjoy it, which if you really enjoy gaming at a competitive level, do it. But I don't want that to be my thing.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, there's value in it because the economy or the market has responded with, assigning value to it.
Exactly.
People are getting paid for it.
In our market, right? It's people are whatever people are willing to pay you, that's what it's worth.
Yep.
Right? Like that's the only way to actually give something value is what you're willing to trade for it.
True.
Right? And I think I could probably add value in a few different aspects of my life other than sitting and grinding.
Well, I feel more fulfilled doing something else. As much as everybody understands that. There's challenges to gaming, I'm sure, that I don't understand. But compared to, bricklaying, easy job. So like anybody would rather do that for $1 million a year than bricklay for $50,000 kind of thing. But at the end of the day, you never know. The bricklayer might actually be more fulfilled in his life than the gamer. You have no idea.
Yeah.
But I would just struggle for myself for sure to find fulfillment in gaming.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I find myself, if I don't know what to do with my time, it immediately goes to gaming. That's a default, right?
Okay.
But I don't know for sure what else I could do with that.
Yep.
Right. Everything else is so structured in my normal life. That's almost my time to just stop.
Do you have any other hobbies? You work out, but like hobbies?
Things that I go and do every single day or like weekly? No.
Well, Okay.
Like I consider myself I like to hunt and I like to fish, obviously. I'm willing to take off time from work to do that.
Yep.
Right. But I'm not in a position right now to where I can do all of the setup and all the, I almost want to call it operations, the things that you need to do to be successful as those. I can't find time to do those.
Okay.
Yep.
What does the time go to?
It's pretty much work in school. Monday through Friday, normally the average day is, aside from when I got sick a few weeks ago, get up around 7:30, make breakfast, go work out for an hour, get ready for my work day from 9:30 to 6 to 6:30, maybe longer, maybe shorter, depending upon the day we're having, right? And then come home and work on homework for probably 2 to 3 hours every single night, it seems like, or every other night. And then at that point, it's time to decompress for the next day. And I would much rather be social gaming with my friends that I know than to sit and stare at my TV and play on my phone.
So it's almost like strategy. Like that's why you do it. Is like you don't really want a stressful hobby. Well, you can play on your phone, but if you had a hobby that took a lot of thought, when you're already doing school and you're already doing work, you need something that's mindless.
Yes.
And at the very least, you find value in the social aspect of the game.
Exactly.
So then you can
that's a great
decompress
explanation for it. Like, to tail back to playing the guitar, right? That's something that, whether you want it to, it does take some mental capacity to actually sit down and practice. And
until you're really good and it's just fun, right?
Then it's
that
just
takes
fun.
Forever.
Yeah, that does. And I suppose that's why there's not very many excellent guitar players or drummers or anybody who can do that, because you need to have fun with it before you actually get good at it, it seems like.
Yep. So, what I'm kind of wondering as well is like, you're a young professional is what I guess I would call it, right? I mean, you're in the professional community as it is, and you're going to school for further professional certifications. You're going for business management?
Business management,
Business management. You're pursuing a bachelor's. You already have your associates at this point. I have the
associates, yeah.
Just completed that not that long ago. So, but one thing about that, you're a pretty structured guy. You're a pretty determined guy. You work hard. You also have pretty good insight for your age. I would definitely say so.
Well, I appreciate that.
And one thing I noticed is that, your school career is going to take you more than 4 years.
Definitely.
So that's something that scares a lot of people. Yeah, like for you, like what's your thought process on, like, instead of, just doing it all in 4 years and just like cramming everything together and, working hard on, doing a full-time job and full-time school and getting it done, as opposed to taking that extra however long to make sure, like what's your thought process on that?
For me, it's going to be a 5.5 year process to obtain a bachelor's. And honestly, a lot of kids are doing it in 4.5. We had a girl from my high school that graduated in 3. Definitely a high level of dedication. I'm not a big fan of cramming it. I find myself kind of degressing, right? Like when I first started going to college, I took a heavy credit load to get it done, to get that associate's degree obtained. I find myself slowing down now to taking only 2-3 classes at a time, but I do feel like I digest it a lot better when I take it slower. The ultimate reason that I do want to go back to school full time is to actually finish it. I see the finish line now, and that's what's driving me. I feel like if I kept only doing 2-3 classes at a time, I'd probably wear myself out. But that'd probably be the biggest takeaway for me as a student. I don't want to have to be up till 2-3 in the morning cramming a test or studying for a test or writing a paper. Yep. You just don't digest that knowledge. You don't actually understand it. Like I'll take my international business class right now, and I actually have time to sit and read the text and think about my answers for my essay questions, compared to if I was just trying to obtain it for a grade. I actually enjoy that.
So you see the value in the process over the end result.
I do. Yeah, I really do. It's for me, I'm trying to take more away learning actual lessons from it than to obtain the piece of paper.
Yeah.
The piece of paper on the resume is going to be what can qualify you for better positions.
Yeah.
And I'm sure those employers are hoping that people are doing things like I am. To actually know what at least have a basis of knowing what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. As you and I know, like you could build a heck of a resume, but when it comes down to the technical skills, it's 100% different.
Yeah.
Right? I want to be able to at least take my technical ability into that. Mm-hmm. Right?
That's fair. I mean, that's a good way to look at it. Jordan Peterson generally says, like, the way you should structure your days, if you can, is structure the day you want to have if you had to balance responsibility along with things you enjoy to end at net zero. And preferably in the positives, right? Like you want to end positive, but at the very minimum net zero. So like if you have to do stressful things, you try to reward yourself with something you enjoy, like video game and whatever else.
Yep.
Now, do you find yourself like struggling to find like any sort of, I mean, not so much habit or routine, but just like the mental toll as far as like balancing, so much, because you're a full-time worker, as we've, mentioned already.
Yep.
You've been a store manager. You moved up pretty quick in the company that you worked for. I think what was it? Under a year you were store manager. Right?
Under a year, yep.
Under a year you were a store manager. That's a huge workload. It's 45 plus hours a week easy. Realistically, It's about 50 at least if you count lunch breaks that you're at the store.
Yeah, you're at the store and you're still answering questions. You're technically there still.
How have you balanced all that, and have you struggled with it at all?
I have definitely had some struggles with it. I find myself really working myself up in like a manic phase to a point to where I burn out. And that is part of the reason I find myself kind of degressing back down the chain. Like now I'm just a rep. And eventually, if I'm able to, I want to just go back to being a student. That workload can wear you out, especially if you don't have the people around you to help you relax. Like that one day where you can do that. And if you're away from everyone that you know, your friends and family, and you don't have an opportunity because of the heavy workload that you already have to go and meet new friends, that becomes very difficult. If you're a person out there who can do that, my hat's off to you. I've found myself after that experiencing understanding a work-life balance carries a whole lot more. Mm-hmm. And this is coming from someone like my dad had to work on the road throughout the week, right? He'd come back and we'd spend our time together and he'd have to go back to work. That's a very difficult work-life balance, and I don't think many people out there can do it, but that's why he's successful. Again, just hats off to anybody who could do that. Yeah. I know I can't.
Well, I definitely think that there is a kind of a culture shift as far as like just overall professionally as far as what's acceptable. Like I don't want to say you don't have to do that to get ahead, because if you want to be the absolute most successful, you do have to do that. You know, I mean, these CEOs, an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos, I mean, it's 4 a.m. to, midnight, basically, that they're working or thinking about
sleeping on the floor. I know, like, there was a segment about Elon Musk where he'll literally sleep for 3 to 4 hours on the floor in his office, get back up, and go right back to work.
It's insane what they do to get that far. You know, there's definitely a certain, certain value. I guess, for lack of a better word, it's not just a certain value. It's immense value in dedicating more time than somebody else. I mean, it's a compound interest.
In the end, whoever works hardest normally wins. And you can definitely pull up a lot of different stories where people were the harder worker and didn't win. But you're successful nevertheless because you actually tried.
Yeah, you might not get number one, but you'll be up there. And, even the top 10 in any industry, the top 10 is very lucrative.
It's very good. As we know from like rankings and scorecards, the top 10 people are known. Yeah. You have a name. Because of that.
But the lesson there that you see is what they're doing, and what they are perfectly happy to do is they're trading their time, which is the one thing you cannot purchase in any sort of circumstance.
Absolutely. Time is the only thing that's limited, honestly.
Yeah. So, I guess that's the lesson out of this is that you obviously see your time as more valuable than the dollar or whatever accomplishment that particular position was going to give you.
Yeah. Something that was really eye-opening to me is at the point, like, I was having success, I moved, the company was happy that I did that. I took a lot of workload off of, like, my superiors, especially when I did that. Like, conversation came up with, like, how long would I have to do this before I could progress another level? Yeah. And another level, and another level, hopefully, right? We had an assignment, and it was my ideal life, basically, of what you wanted your ideal life. And that was that assignment came at a point when I was really low, and I felt really wore out, really beat down with the responsibilities that I had. And I realized that being a part of people's lives brings a value that's not monetary. Being there for when they need you means a lot more in the end, right? No one at your funeral is going to say, hey, look at how much money he had. Like, in all honesty, the people who are actually attending your funeral to be there to mourn for your loss, they're not going to say, oh, Joe was so successful doing this. Joe made so much money doing this. They might bring it up just to give you praise, but in the end, they're going to remember the time that you went and help them feel better, or jump their car, or push them out of a ditch. Things like that, to me, mean just as much, right? You need money, but in the end, that's not going to make you a good person. It doesn't make you valuable to society, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I would agree. Teachers are just the easiest one to come up with offhand that are, if you compare their value in society, in my personal opinion, to what they get paid, there's a huge disparity. Enormous.
We've definitely had this discussion before on how much teachers get paid. And I've definitely had a lot of influence from teachers, like growing up through middle school to high school. I've had a lot of really good relationships, been friends with a lot of their kids. Yep. And I do find they're almost always the most caring people. Yeah. And like, students who have bad experiences with a teacher that might not have been caring might have burned that bridge already. That happens. Yeah. Or you might have caught that teacher when they were burned out, when they were when they were really tired. Mm-hmm. If there was one thing we could improve throughout throughout the education year, whatever, I think they do trimesters now, honestly, instead of quarters and semesters. Yeah. They need to have more opportunity to relax, it seems.
Yeah, like. A little time off or so. Yeah. The summer's not enough, you don't think?
I feel like I feel like a lot of teachers do work a second job in the summer, and those who don't do get a little bit better of a work-life balance.
Yep. If they have the opportunity to. At the end of the day, I don't know what a salary is for a teacher on average these days, but I mean, they're not making $100K.
This is where Joe Rogan would be like, pull that up, Jamie.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we don't have a Jamie.
Damn, we need a Jamie. Yeah.
You know what I wanted to ask you though is, coming back from, the store manager role you were in and all that, and going back to the rep. One thing I think would be interesting to kind of get your perspective on is a lot of people would look at that or take it as failure. And that question had to have gone through your mind. Like, did I fail or what situation am I in?
Absolutely.
What thought processes did you use or what did you think? Like, what led you? Because, I mean, you shouldn't struggle with that. Nobody's called you a failure on it. Like, it was far from that. It was a personal choice. Everybody understood that. But what was your thought processes to overcome that mentality?
And I will be willing to admit it, there's a lot of feelings of failure, and especially when I talk to the hardest working people that I know, right? Like, just for example, like Josiah, for example, or like my dad, things like that. I could definitely get tones of, are you sure this is what you want to do? Are you sure you want to stop? Because you've already came so far, it seemed like. I think what ultimately led me to getting over that feeling was the personal connections that I was able to get back. When I came back, I could feel myself slipping more and more out of people's lives that I knew still needed me, or I knew I still needed them. Mm-hmm. That helped a lot. Being able to come back to the store where I started and work with the people that I started and be close to my best friends in the world, basically, that made a huge difference. If I went to a different role thinking that it was just my location, right, that was hurting me, I don't think it would have helped. I think if I would have took a different store, there would have been a moment of refresh and I would have been able to help it. But that wouldn't have helped me in any way. Definitely not. I
can relate to that. I mean, you remember when I went to as an assistant manager to the location, and I came back, and you have the same store, same kind of situation where the comfort was the fact of the people I enjoy, the store I enjoy, the environment I enjoy. I was happy, even if I made a few bucks less. Like money, I mean, as it's well documented these days that money doesn't buy happiness, but over and over again, I'm sure we could tell many stories of it being put into effect.
Exactly.
That's one for both of us.
Once you're comfortable with your income and you're surviving, right? You're good. I actually had a conversation with someone that was a psychology major the other night, and I was talking to her about it, and we brought up the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I'm going to misquote this, but basically the bottom is like your basic instinct needs, food, shelter, water. Number 2 is like your monetary comforts. Number 3 is self-esteem. And then somewhere up there is like your self-actualization, like atonement of what you wanted your life to be. Mm-hmm. As soon as you get to that comfort level, right, your self-esteem should boost. And that's where we were. Mm-hmm. I think that is kind of where we were. And like I was doing a lot more research on Maslow's hierarchy of needs after that. And it's kind of discredited in the psychology world. But as far as it's basic,
a great template to start with,
right? Like at a bare minimum, you could take something away from that and be like, okay, this is where I'm at. Yeah, I lack in self-esteem and self-confidence, right? Mm-hmm. Where's my next step and how can I improve upon that?
Well, that's the thing is that people so often seem to, especially these days, there's too much information. If somebody doesn't teach you specifically from a young age a framework to view the world through or with or as a part of, then there's just so much information out there. It's almost information overload. So you get pulled in so many directions, you never have a solid one to understand where you're at and what you should do next.
That's a very good point. I think the days of kids going through like a phase where they really figure out who they are is kind of gone because we're so shaped by that information. Yeah, you're told what you should like. You're told what you should do. Like I was telling you, when I FaceTime my friend, that was my friend that did the social media cleanse. Okay. He just went off the map for basically 2 to 3 weeks, which doesn't sound like that much time, but in all reality, to delete that off your phone for 2 to 3 weeks would change who you are probably. And I think that's what he was doing. He really wanted to stop being influenced by what he saw online. And even this is interesting too, is political views changed after that. He started looking at the world as it actually is around him happening, it seemed like, and less of what he was being told. And I'm not going to lean one way or the other on that, but it was really interesting to see a change in him through doing that.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. That is pretty interesting. I've thought, like, I did at one point, like, the closest I ever got to deleting social media was just deleting the Facebook app off my phone, and I had to go on the web browser to view it, so I couldn't easily scroll and all that, but it's back on my phone now, and it's something, definitely worth considering what it can do for your life, because, I mean, you're just, again, influenced so many ways. You can be as careful as you'd like with, what you have in your feed and what you don't, but you can't control who posts what on their page or what ads come your way,
Yeah. I think there should be a point, right, to where you get where all you want to do is grind on your profession or career. I think that would probably be the perfect time to do that.
Yeah.
It just seems like once you get to a point to where like the framework's set out, right, and it's just time to work.
It's time to sign off.
It's time to log out for a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it personally. Mm-hmm. Kind of grew up with it too much now.
Yeah.
But that would be helpful.
I honestly can't think of anything that it does for me except for literally just killing time and just decompressing, kind of like you said, just taking my mind off of it, so whatever else I'm doing. Yeah. Which honestly, like you said, if you're ready to commit to your professional, whatever you're doing, whether it's a business
might not
or
even
whatever.
have to be professional. It could be a different passion or interest even to make it more broad.
That's true.
Right? If you were an artist and not you had a job, but you were also an artist on the side, maybe doing that would improve your art.
Yeah.
Right?
Is there anything you could think of offhand that if you had an opportunity to do all the time that would be worth it for you that you know would or if you maybe don't know, but you think would make it worth it to you?
Oh, that's a really difficult question. I don't think...
I know you're a snapper, man.
Snapchat's interesting because like when I was really... Like when we were in middle school, because this is just going to date me, right? Texting was a thing. Snapchat was barely around.
Yeah.
Like for example, Big Jared and I, we have the same date that we joined Snapchat.
Oh, that's
cool. That says something because of our age difference even. Yeah. He joined at almost the same exact date as me. Huh. Right? I've definitely been influenced by it a lot more than even 27, 28-year-olds, it seems like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going on that, I just want to check something on my phone because we were talking about using it to decompress. Mm-hmm. I just want to look at my screen time really, really quick.
Oh, yeah? Let's see what you got.
Yeah. I want to look at my 5-day average here. So today, my daily average, this has got to be low. It's telling me it's only 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah, that's definitely not right. I'm not even going to delve into it. I've definitely had days where I'm on my phone 4 to 5 hours, it seems like. Yep. My only thing is I wonder if us doing that now has become our way to relax middle of the day, right? Because you talked about it. Sometimes it's nice to just look at things on your phone and just read and just like be entertained by videos, for example. Just like even 20, 30 years ago, people would sit down in front of the TV. And even before that, people would sit down in front of the radio. Mm-hmm. Has technology always been that thing for us? Like, as long as it's been around, you think it's always been a thing and it's just getting to the extremes now?
I do think that's probably the case. I mean, as far as always, you can only go back so far with technology, right? You know, at least this kind of technology, if that's what we're talking about. I think like maybe you could say fire was that technology, and people get around a campfire and talk.
I still
and
love
tell
to
stories.
sit around a campfire.
Yeah,
right?
that's the original TV, right?
Yeah, it is.
But I mean, yeah, to some degree, I think you're probably right, and it's extreme. I think it's more invasive now. Because I'll say from my personal experience, what I find myself having trouble doing is pulling away from it when somebody's like talking to me, like
I feel Tasha so bad doing that,
but I can't help it. Like,
yeah,
I don't know why.
Yeah, yeah. I feel one thing that I try my absolute hardest to do. There's one place where I don't do that is at the dinner table.
That's fair.
If I'm eating or if I go out to eat with somebody, even if I'm at a fast food place, I try to put the phone down. That's one spot. The rest of my life, I'm consumed by it. Like, if I'm going to enjoy a meal with somebody, the phone's going away. You
know what the habit kind of seems like to me, at least? It's like almost like smoking. You know, it's like that quick little break in the day, just real quick. Oh, yeah, I'll be there in a second kind of thing. You know, it's hard to stop, but you don't do it at dinner because nobody likes it when you do it at dinner. Oh, it's unpleasant. Yeah. You know,
that's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same. Like, I'm not saying you're physically addicted to, your phone like you are to nicotine type of thing. Yeah. But, the habit, it's similar. You know, you can use the analogy or the metaphor.
There's another really great connection for that, too, is that could have been people's social networking at a time, especially when smoking was a lot more popular.
For sure.
And like even
look at work, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just about to say, like, even in the sales job that we've had, like when I work production jobs, like production assistant jobs working in factories, people will go out. There's a niche of people that go out and smoke. It seems like 10 people are always outside every single 10-minute break that they get. And they're not on their phone. At least from what I remember, they weren't on their phone. But I would be sitting inside looking at my phone. That was my way to connect with people. Definitely not saying that smoking is better than the phone at this point.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting thing to think about, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, social aspect of it, Yeah, that's interesting for sure. It's pervasive, man. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. I think it's only going to be more and more prevalent for sure.
Yeah, I wonder what the extremes are. Like,
it's hard to say. It's a matter of where do they want to implant the technology is the question. Like, what part of your body are they going to use?
Yeah. Where are we going to biohack in?
Yeah.
What is going to be the next thing? How are we going to feed the information instead of looking at it on the screen?
How the real question is the first step. Like, what are they going to do that doesn't sound so crazy that people won't panic and say, no way, Jose.
I'm telling you, man, it's the Google Glass.
That's kind of seems like, because it's not in you, right?
It's not
when
in
you start implanting things, I feel like they could probably get away with the hand chip. Amazon's talked about that, I think, for purchases and things like that. Like some sort of chip in your hand or your arm that you just scan.
They can put an RFID basically in your hand, and you can actually program it to do anything you want. I've watched a really interesting documentary about that.
Really?
There was a woman that programmed her bus pass, her gym pass, and her library card. 3 things that aren't nearly as important as your credit card information, right?
Yep.
She'd walk in to go to the gym, just put her palm against it, and it would go off, and she was good to go. That is something that I'd be interested in. I can't lie to you.
Well, here's the thing. You have to look into, Joe, if you're Christian at the very least, just a quick point about that, is they do talk about, what the heck, the mark of the beast. You know what I mean? Like, in Revelation, like, you'd have to do your own research. There's a lot of crazy research out there. Like, we can talk about it separately. But, like, there's just, like, they draw a correlation between, like, the idea of a mark or being marked in some sense with, like, any sort of an implant. And, like, not by they, I mean, like, some Christian scholars, just some. I'm not saying this is correct.
Yeah.
But, like, that potentially, I mean, like, there's a lot of things that happen throughout the world. Everybody's always saying it's the end times, but there's things like Israel's a nation now. There's always wars and different diseases going on. We have coronavirus that could be a plague, so to speak. If we start getting locusts, I'm going to get worried. I will say that.
Oh, yeah.
Donald Trump's president. It's made. Nothing one way or the other against Donald Trump, but we got to say it's at least shocking for sure. If 10 years ago you had said he'd be president, very few people have been like, oh, yeah, that sounds like a realistic possibility.
It was such a joke that even The Simpsons joked about it.
Yeah, I mean, he was in WrestleMania. I mean, he's a celebrity. But, I mean, just put it this way, that a lot of things in the world have happened that are unexpected.
Yes, absolutely.
So, like, I mean, along with
the
that,
rate of natural disasters, things like that. I've actually heard this from multiple people about Revelation.
Yeah, man, it's kind of crazy. I'm not saying I'm thinking that the world's going to end tomorrow, but I'm just saying that you never know. And when you got Amazon, who's $1 trillion company that could potentially put a chip in like 1 billion plus people. That's a mark.
It sounds
that's
like
concerning.
Something, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be comfortable with that at the very least. I'd have to think about it.
Yeah, I would have to think about it a lot if it was $1 billion corporation, especially.
But if it's your personal stuff, you feel better?
I would feel a little bit better, something that I can customize, right? That isn't directly related to a card company.
How do you know there's not some, like, bio software in there that you don't know about?
No,
you know what I mean?
I get that. I get that.
I don't know. I probably sound like a conspiracy theorist.
Alex Jones in the house, baby.
Go.
No, but I don't know for sure what the level would be to where I'd say, okay, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Right? I can't draw that conclusion until it comes out.
Yeah,
but you're right. You're 100% right with a $1 trillion company like Amazon wanting to put a chip in every single Amazon Prime customer.
I don't know what to think of Bezos, man. He spooks me out sometimes the way he talks. I was just listening to him the other bright guy, done a lot of good, donating a lot of money, all that sort of stuff. But, when people are incredibly, like, unreasonably powerful, so powerful that, like, I can't even actually comprehend how much money and power and influence they have in the world.
Yep.
I just get spooked out about, like, what if they are, like, crazy? Just a little bit, right?
Yeah, what if they had just a touch, maybe?
You don't have to be really crazy to do a lot of damage with $1 billion,
No.
But if you can make a lot of trouble, being really crazy with, like, $20.
Yes. Yeah, you can get into some bad things.
If you're at the extremes in craziness or finances, then either one could be trouble, and he's on one. And if he has a touch of the other, I'd be worried.
You have the potential. That's the issue.
And then you got Elon Musk, who might be an alien or a robot.
I'm telling you, he's a little odd.
Thank you for joining us on the John Senne Ideas Podcast, produced by MarketAdviser. We intend to upload a new podcast each week, so check back soon for more.